Alright guys, Hutchkarmic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So for a massively important day in competitive Call of Duty this evening with the last true OG of the competitive Call of Duty space, the longest tenured pro ever, the oldest pro ever for the last couple of years, and no doubt one of the most successful and well liked as well, playing on so many organisations and with so many teammates in his career and having so much success at that. Not the end of the career that Clayster wanted, but that is what we have had announced today. Clayster confirming his retirement from competitive Call of Duty, and why has he exactly done this we'll describe over the coming minutes in Clayster's own perspective, and also what next for the great man. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. A couple of things to dive into this evening as well. We have been expecting and have received some jersey reveals coming very shortly indeed. I'm sure we'll talk more about them tomorrow because there have been quite a few organisations gassing up what they're going to drop this year. They've been the same for the last couple of years, so we'll see if any of them are really good. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Boston Breach, by the way, they did confirm their new roster. We heard rumours even before the World Cup. This is what they were going to plan to do. And then, of course, they announced that roster for the World Cup. They revealed that roster for the World Cup. And then there were rumours that they were going to maintain that roster through the World Cup going into the new year. That is Purge. That is Snoopy, not on the Challengers team. Of course, as we speculated earlier today, that's Big Wake. And, of course, the final member in Cammy. And, look, everyone knew it was Cammy. I don't know why they're doing this video, kind of wondering what it was going to be. And of course, they've also got Shawnee now as the new head coach of their roster, right? Because, well, this is T-Dog's video, obviously, but Doug sent to Martin. We don't know if he's really pulling the strings behind the scenes of their organisation. We know that Zed, of course, though, is gone. We know that Denz is seemingly gone as well as the general manager of that team, but it's obviously interesting to understand exactly what's happened behind the scenes at Boston. The reality is, we knew full well that this team and organisation had to blow it up big time behind the scenes last year. Maybe this is an org where Clayster could or should have gone. Maybe an opportunity could have been here for Clay, and we'll mention the possibilities here over the coming minutes. But Shawnee is now stepping in as the head coach. Magic as their assistant coach. That's great to see as well. How good's this team going to be? On paper, not the best, but they've got upside potentially if Awakening can unlock the form we've seen over the last couple of years, and Snoopy can be the player that they think he can be. Another big update as well, we saw that JCap getting engaged a couple of days ago now, and today we see the confirmation here with Octane and Kendall, so I thought this was lovely. Congratulations to the pair of them, and I thought it was really cool to see, you know. So great stuff for the competitive COD scene as ever, but the big announcement of the day, of course, coming out of Clay. This was rumoured earlier in the day. Clay talked about having an announcement today, obviously, and look, if Clay was going to join a team, we would have seen some speculation, I would say, to that effect. We would have seen rumours as to where Clay was potentially going to go. Ravens got rid of him going into the World Cup. There were some organisations out there, the Minnesota Rocker, maybe Boston, maybe a couple of others that could have considered Clay's services, but of course, over the last couple of years, Clay has not had the end of his career that he wanted. There was so much stuff happening behind the scenes, and of course, I will point you guys, after this video is over, to go and watch this episode if you guys haven't already, that Shawstin and Clay put together to celebrate what has been a phenomenal career, and it presumably won't buffer when you guys actually go and watch it. This was such a brilliant, emotionally charged, you know, piece of content, really, just looking back at Clay's career, because he's always a guy that's worn his heart on his sleeve, and he's been through a lot from his personal life over the last couple of seasons that have made things very challenging and to compete on a high level still. And Clay made it quite clear that, look, he wanted to still play. He actually loves getting on and scrimming and playing with the team and that brotherhood, that camaraderie. Many other pros of Clayster's ilk in many regards, in Clayster's category, others of Clay's generation that have retired over the last couple of years, they got fed up with it, you know, getting on, grinding, scrimming every day. I think that's one of the features that separated Clay from his competition, is that this guy just absolutely lives for it. And I'm sure that he still does. And of course, Clay now realizes that given the way things have happened over the last couple of years, in the same way that with Crimsix, the greatest ever, at some point the opportunities just weren't quite there. And Clay admits that maybe, look, his career faded out in the way that he wouldn't have liked. He wanted to go out with a bang, but it so rarely happens like that. And Clay, I'm sure, has no regrets as to the way that his career is finished. He would have liked, I'm sure, to go out on a higher note over the last couple of seasons, but he still played some great stuff, still had some great moments, and was still in a position where many of us were saying, look, Clay deserves a spot back in the Call of Duty League, and I think arguably that could have happened. But what a career for Clayster, and he obviously talks about it here in this video, and as he replies to, I wanted to create something that was raw and authentic. That's certainly true, and Shawstin and Clay just did a phenomenal job as ever with this. Something that spoke to the passion that I've competed with over the last half of my life. Incredibly tough shoot for me. Hope the video resonated with you guys as much as it did with me, and thanking everyone. And you know, you see in the replies to this all of the responses from so many pros who either Clay played with or against and has left an impact on, or just straight up inspired. I mean, you got to understand, many of the pros today, when they grew up playing competitive Call of Duty, they were watching Clay. They were watching Clay's career, his story, his legacy, and I do believe that the last couple of years for Clayster, despite the fact that he hasn't necessarily been at the top of his game, I do think they've added to his legacy, right? Because so few other players from that generation were able to play for so long, still be on an individual level a competitive force, still have their highlight moments, and I just thought, you know, Clay has just achieved something in competitive COD that no one else has done from a longevity POV. Those that have had the success that Clayster has had, there aren't many with multiple championship rings, certainly not many with 3. It's Clay, it's Crim, and it's Karma. Those are the only guys. And even of those guys in that kind of category, how many of them were around for 10 or more years? A very small number. 16 is completely unprecedented, right? So I think that Clay's really set the bar in terms of what it means to live and breathe Call of Duty for basically your entire life, and that certainly applies to Clay. So yeah, this was kind of the comment that I wanted to share here from Clay. But we just see some great responses, really. Of course, he was on FaZe Clan for a long time, was never on Atlanta FaZe, but he was on eUnited with those Atlanta FaZe boys before they became Atlanta FaZe, going into the start of the CDL era. 3-time world champion, Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 4, Modern Warfare 19, 18, 20 tournament wins, depends what you count, and we'll discuss that a bit in a second. X Games gold medalist, Champs MVP in 2015, over $1 million in tournament earnings, and even as Simp says, one of the future greatest, you changed my life forever with the chance you took on me on eUnited. Appreciate you as a person, truly wish you nothing but the best. So there's going to be so many players with stories something like this from Clay's career. I thought this is kind of funny from attached. Too many memories to count. Congrats on an amazing career. This, of course, their World Championship triumph. For some reason, Jacob's getting clowned out of here. Of course, you know, he was in the replies saying, oh, come on, what do you mean, sunshine? Of course, Scrappy as well, because Scrappy had the last laugh in many regards, right? Because I'm sure Clay, it eats away at him a little bit that that's the case, but it is what it is, right? Scrappy and Clay had a bit of beef at the start of this season. I think Scrap said something like, you know, good luck getting top 8, buddy, or something like that. And then, of course, at the final event that they played each other on LAN at Major 4 this year, Scrappy made the comment about, oh, back to the desk you go, buddy, or something like that. But it was nice that Scrap just, you know, took it very calm and said, like, damn, son, one of the GOATs to do it. And it's nice for Scrappy because we know the type of character he is, but Scrap also knows what guys like Clay did for the scene, building it into what it's been today. Scrappy respects that and wishes him good luck on his next journey. It was a pleasure playing against you, he says. And I think it's a fascinating spot we find ourselves in competitive COD, really, where Scrappy and others that have just come up, like we wondered a few years ago when Scump was due to retire, when we were worried about it, when Crim and Formal and Karma and Clay and Octane, of course, some of the names we've lost over the last few years, when they were set to call it a day, we were concerned, where's the next generation? Are we going to have one? And now Scrappy and Pred and, you know, these other guys have come up into the scene and help kind of continue that legacy. And I'm sure that Scrappy, when his career is done, will look back and say, wow, like, I got to play against Clay, right? Like, and that'll be something to say when you look back on his career in several years' time. These, all the championships that Clayster won, you know, you can argue that PlayStation X experience, whatever it was called back in Infinite Warfare, does it count, does it not, whatever, who cares? 20 championship wins of some regard or another, and of course 3 world championship victories in there as well. I did just want to share for you guys, in addition, really, looking back at like the longevity of Clayster's career. I mean, I've scrolled for a long time here, we're not done quite yet. So this is where it started for Clay, way back in 2010. 2010. We're talking the GameStop International 10K for $4,000 for second place he won with these boys back in 2010 on Modern Warfare 2, right? Like, that's how far Clay goes back. This is Black Ops 1. This is Modern Warfare 3. Then we go into Black Ops 2. That season started to win on the Complexity lineup, of course, and all the success that they had. I'll just make this a touch bigger so you guys can actually kind of see the placements on the left-hand side. COD champs in Ghosts, of course, with Optic, because that's the other thing that you don't want to forget about Clay, is the fact that he teamed with everyone. He was on every organization, has played for Optic, has played for FaZe, has played for Envy, has played for Team Caliber, played for Complexity. Like, you know, he's done it all, Clayster. And, of course, he was on the legendary Dynasty lineup for Complexity before they then made the roster change they did, of course, for Karma famously. But still, he was part of what became the Dynasty, and, you know, they were winning 4 in a row with Clay on the roster. Of course, he was never a part of the Optic Dynasty, but, like, of all of the players that are of that caliber, the only one not to still be part of Optic and to have been part of multiple different organizations is Clay, right? You look at the greatest ever, you think of Karma, Scump, Crimsix, Formal, like, those are the other 4 guys in the contention for the top 5 players ever. Clay's in there somewhere, wherever you want to put him. Some would put him 5th, 4th, you know, I think up to 3rd. Clay thinks he's probably 2nd behind Crim. I know that he's mentioned that before. Wherever you put him, all of those other guys are intrinsically linked with Optic, and Clayster, yes, he played for Optic and won the X Games with them, but he's never been an Optic man through and through, and that is to his credit, because to build up such a legacy and such a personality and, of course, such a following as an individual as he has done, to the point where when he joined Ravens or when he joined Vegas the year before, they immediately became one of the absolute most popular teams in the game, because Clay just had so many fans of his career, what he achieved, and also like the hardships, because Clay's been one of those personalities, as I said earlier, heart on his sleeve. He's going to let you know how he's feeling inside the game, how he's feeling outside of the game, and you always get that raw emotion from Clay, and I think that's connected him very much so to many fans in the competitive Call of Duty space, to such an extent that people, when he kind of stepped away, when he had during Infinite Warfare, during World War II, during Black Ops 4, the 1,000-day wait to another championship, that's why so many were so happy, of course, when Clay finally got over the line there. And these are just the other LAN events that they played during MW19, during Cold War, and then, of course, back to LAN during Vanguard, when he went down to Challengers after the New York Subliners drama. And, you know, any other pro would have just called it a day at that point, but Clay didn't. He got back in the league, had a couple of good seasons with some decent results in a very challenging circumstance in the league right now. And even, you know, just looking back on this, he actually did cast a few games. We're talking 2014. I just found this one up. I thought it was kind of remarkable. And look, here we are with Puckett and Clay back at PAX East 2014, when he's commenting on Strictly Business versus Collins. Like, Clay had the talent for it back then. Whether that's going to continue today, that is the question, because as Clay says, sucks to see the last true OG retire. And I think that's the way that I look at it, right? Of all of those legends that I mentioned over the last few minutes, Clay was in many respects the last greatest player of that era, and now we're going to be losing that, right? I just found this image of Crim just to kind of paint this picture of all the guys that have retired over the last few years, and now we have a league without Clay as well. So Karma, Cap, Aches, Zuma, Enable, Former Apathy, Crim, Scump, and Octane. You know, so many legends, so many world champions on this list as well that have now called it a day. So yeah, as Brian says, without the above, this scene would not be the same, but thankfully they've been able to help build the scene into something where, even with their departure from competitive COD, it can still live on in some form or another. It won't be the same, but I'm hoping that we keep Clay around the competitive COD space. We're not 100% sure what's next for Clay, although we could potentially guess, right? He's done a phenomenal job on the desk over the last season and a half or so. Of course, he was at Champs, he was at the World Cup, analysing the games. I feel like Clay is a great addition in that sense, and, you know, as he says in the clip that I'm going to share for you guys in a couple of minutes, he's the happiest he's probably ever been, or certainly close to, certainly the happiest in a long time. And I think Clay will miss being on the stage for sure. I think you always will as a competitor, but I think Clay would still like to be around competitive COD to some degree. I'd hope so at the very least, and I'm sure that he probably feels that way as well. Maybe there's some other opportunity though in his future as well, but people are going to talk about, could he join the flank? Could he go to the desk? I think the most likely option is that, he joins the analyst desk for the new season of competitive COD. I would be surprised if that option wasn't available to him, but he may have other interesting options as well. A guy as tenured and as successful as Clay's been in his career, he will have opportunities that he may want to take advantage of in the future. So I think this is hopefully for the best for Clay and for the future of competitive COD as well, if Clay can bring value in another aspect, right? To look at these guys, I thought was interested. The first championship or finals appearance for all of these guys all came with Clay as their teammate, right? So a legendary career. We're going to close it out there for today, and hopefully, and what I said in the video, I did some justice to the importance that Clayster has had to this competitive COD scene. So I'll share a minute or so of Clay kind of talking about why he's had to step away and why he's obviously frustrated, maybe that it's ended as it has done, but nonetheless is, looking forward to the next adventure. And then, of course, I'll push you guys over to the Classics channel where you guys can watch the entire 30-minute episode. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.